Welcome to Be a Baller, where we're building a lifelong legacy for our families, communities, and the world. Your host, Coach Tim Brown, is excited for you to join him on this journey. On each episode, we'll be talking about how to be intentional about building a lasting legacy. We'll be exploring what it means to leave a mark that goes beyond just our lives, but has a positive impact on those around us and even generations to come. So, if you're looking for inspiration, guidance, and practical tips on how to build a lasting legacy that makes a difference, then you're in the right place. So grab your earbuds, get comfortable, and let's dive in. It's time to be a baller.
Welcome to Be a Baller podcast, where we explore what it means to build a lifelong legacy that impacts your family, community, and the world. I'm your host, Coach Tim Brown, and today we have an incredible guest who's dedicated his life to empowering young men to become leaders and young men of good character. Please welcome Gary Hicks Sr., intervention specialist, mentor, and CEO and founder of Young Men Growing. Gary, thanks for joining the show.
Hey, man, thank you for having me, man. I'm excited, man. I couldn't even sleep last night, man. I was ready for this. I'm excited. Hey, listen to all your sessions and your podcasts, man, and listen to brothers you had on here, man. I'm excited. I really feel privileged, man. Thank you for this opportunity.
Oh, no, it's my pleasure. My pleasure. Yeah. Before we get into before we get deep into this, I want you to talk about your annual Young Men Gathering, your leadership conference in April. Can you talk about the vision of that and the impact that is this a third year or fourth year of the conference?
It's actually going to be it's our second year of doing it. It's our second time doing it. And the vision is, man, one of our pillars is community engagement. And so our organization is selection based. You have to go through an application process, and we choose once a year a new group of guys or adding to who we already have in our organization. And so part of our program, our curriculum is teaching these guys how to reach out to the community. And so we understand as an organization that we're not going to be able to take everybody in, but this is our part to show the community, like, we care about you, we see you, and we hear you. And so we want to provide you with information that we give to our guys on a regular basis. And so we try to open up our arms and try to do our best to give everybody who attends from the community outside of the Cuyahoga County to come in and hear about this work that we're doing for our young brothers. And so,
talk about
go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, and I was just going to say, man, it's really a passion of ours to really. I wish we could take everybody in, man, but if we have some young brothers in the seat who hear something impactful and then they start going on their journey, man, we're doing our part. So, yeah, that's the mindset behind it.
So this year's theme, can you talk about this year's theme? I got excited.
Yeah. Own your journey, build your future. Really, basically what we're saying is being intentional about who you're going to be as a man. Intentionality is something big that we are really harping on our boys to really buy into. And intentionality means, like, you have a plan, you have a strategic approach of how you're going to become the man that you see yourself that you want to be. And I tell people, man, like, Superman ain't coming. So you got to put the work in. And whoever you envision yourself, you want to be rich, you want to be powerful, you want to be respected when you walk into a room. You want your presence to open up a door for you. So when you start talking, people are prepared to receive what you say. Then you got to start doing the work. And the work is serious. It's a process that we talk about. And so own your journey, build your future is that in mind. It's like trying to get the guys to understand that you have to be purposeful about who you're going to be, and you got to put that work in.
Put that work in. I hear that a lot now. Put that work in.
Put that work in.
You're getting around now. Can you talk about growing up? I know you were born in Cleveland, but you're raised in Tennessee, in Knoxville. With your dad. Yeah. Can you talk about that experience?
Man, you know what? All these years, man, I'm 46, and I always tell people, man, as an educator, I felt like I didn't choose education. Education chose me. And when I was in the fourth grade, my father lived in Tennessee, and I lived with my mom and my grandmother. My grandmother passed away at the beginning stages of my fourth grade year in school. And so my mom and my dad made a decision, and my father came in and picked me up out of Cleveland and took me to Tennessee to live with him. And it was probably like 3 years ago, Tim, where I looked at my dad, and my father is a brick mason. My father owned his own business. So he laid brick, man, and that's what he did. He's a master builder. And one day he was teaching my son how to hold a trowel correctly. And he did it in so much detail. I stepped back and I'm like, that's where I get it from.
Right.
I get the education, the teaching. Like every time I try to do something, I try to take my own experience and try to get the next guy to do it better than I could. And so that's right here is my son, actually. The photo that you see is my son, and Young Man Growing is based off my father. My father would take all my friends, and because he had his own business, he would have us working on that clay red dirt, building those scaffolds, making that mud, carrying those 12 center blocks, man, and setting up stuff. And my father had a saying, man, my father would hire me every morning and fire me at the end of the day. And so everything of who I am and how I move and how I interact with people is really sparked from my father. So I hated it. I hated the fact that my dad came and got me. I hated the fact that I wasn't with my family because I lived with my mom and my aunt and them, and they catered to me like women. You know what I'm saying? I was the only baby boy in the family at the time. And to be honest with you, no disrespect to anybody in my family, I'm still the only man in my family. And so you got to understand, I was getting catered to. But when I moved with my father, I didn't get catered to. I got chastised, and I was like, no, boy, you're going to be a man. And I'm going to show you how to be a man. I'm going to show you how to work with these hands. You're going to work with these hands or you're going to go to school. And I was like, nah, man, I can't be out here in no 100-degree weather. I'm going to school, Pops.
Right.
I'm going to
You know,
school. I'll see you.
I understand back in the day you were quite an athlete. Can you describe, you talk about the impact that sports coaches had in your life and the life lessons you learned from them?
Yeah, man, I've had quite a few of them. One that really, two guys that stood out to me was Bill Brown and Brian Houston. They had two different personalities, but they loved the game so much. And for me, basketball saved my life, meaning that I was talented at it enough where people, even when I made mistakes outside of the court, they still spend time with me and try to get me to understand that I gotta figure this out. And I tell people I'm not ashamed of it, man. I got expelled from middle school because I was so rebellious because my father came and got me. I just wanted to figure out a way how to get back to Cleveland. I got expelled from middle school my 8th grade year. Ninth, 10th, 11th grade, I got kicked off my basketball team every year for fighting, just not complying. And then going into my junior, senior year, something just finally clicked, and I just tried to show that I cared a little bit more. And so basketball saved me. It helped me. And so academically, I wasn't that guy. On the court, I was that guy, but academically, I wasn't that guy. So I was forced to go JUCO route, like a lot of us. And so going through that JUCO route, I really had to do some internal searching. And so basketball gave me that time to kind of work on some things I needed to work on. And so when the opportunity came for me to go to my 4-year school, man, which is I was telling you that story. That's where it was a pivotal moment in my life. It allowed me to make some decisions that created who I am today.
During that time, college and that experience, can you talk about the role that faith played in your life and how you came to know
Yeah.
the Lord?
Yeah. So, you know how they say, like, you could take somebody from somewhere, but they're going to still have they're going to have the same behaviors and same characters. Right. And so all the bad habits that I learned in Tennessee, trying to rebel and trying to get my father to send me back to my mom, when I finally had the opportunity to come back home, my freshman year after college, I come back home. And so, not ashamed to say it now, man, I got into some law trouble because I was doing some stuff that I shouldn't have been doing, think I could get away because I'm an athlete. And so, um, so I was never a believer too much. I grew up in the South, so it's a Bible Belt,
Oh,
Bible
yeah.
church. You know what I'm saying? And I went to Amy Zion, and I used to go to sleep and snore in the back of the pews. And I was an acolyte, and I had the white Catholic
Oh,
kind of
yeah.
thing on. I carried the lamp, and I would stand
Oh, yeah.
on the left or the right side of the pastor while he was preaching. I would fall asleep up there, and my father would go off on me. I used to when I didn't acolyte and I was sitting in the back, I was sneaking, go to the candy store across the street and never come back until it was time to come back. And I made a vow. I said, man, when I get grown, man, I ain't never going to church, man. Bump this stuff. And so, God is funny. He got his plan. And so when I ended up choosing the school that I wanted to go to, which was California University of Pennsylvania, and that was all by God's design, met my future wife. And my wife is the person who led me to Christ. We started off with one conversation. I said, if God is such this great God, why is all this evil in the world, and why I got to go through the things I'm going to, and why am I struggling so much? And at that point, I was in a state of depression because life was just not working out for me in my favor. I had my knees start going bad on me, and I just couldn't play like I wanted to. And so I really came to Christ, really just asking him to fix me so I can go back and do what I wanted to do. And I asked her that one question. I went to church that one time. You couldn't tell me nothing, Tim. I was bankhead. I went to church, whatever. And then I gave my life to Christ my junior year in college when I turned 19. And he just flipped me all the way around. And so a lot of this stuff right here, this young man growing, we believe is really coming from the center of who I am as a person. I'm really trying to get the young men to understand, like, basketball or any sport you play is a wonderful thing, but it can't be your end and goal identity. You have to understand that you were created for more than just dribbling a basketball, throwing a football, throwing a baseball, running track. You have a higher purpose. And so when we talk about we believe, it's not so much that I need to believe in you. It's so much that you need to believe in yourself to the point where I believe in you. You know what I mean? And so that's where we come from with that.
That's good. With over 20 years of experience in education, youth development, and athletics, you build a reputation as a passionate advocate for young men. Can you share with the audience what sparked your passion for working with this particular age group?
Yeah. I started off in high school. I worked at a high school, and when I worked at the high school, I was a head basketball coach. I had a really good run. But my guys were getting in so much trouble, man. Like I had one guy almost stab a guy to death. I had another guy who had to be locked up and all this other stuff. But every time they would get in trouble, Tim, they would be like, man, I'm just a kid. And I'm like scratching my head. And I'm like, okay, you are making grown man decisions.
Right.
And I'm like, man, no, man, you a young man. And that's where the name Young Man Growing comes from, because that's the baseline of what we talk about. We try to change this mindset of thinking because you are 13, 14, 15, you a kid, man. And the world don't look at you like no kid. Man, they look at you like grown men, and they'll throw you on that ground, lock you up, separate you from your family. And so the first thing we talk about is changing this mentality of like, man, you are not a kid. You are grown. You're growing into a grown man. And so you got to move a certain way. And so that's where my passion comes from. And then going back to my biblical upbringing and understanding the scriptures, man, the most important character in the Bible, the person in the Bible, is the man. And so God starts everything off with the man. If you look in the scriptures, he said, man, I'm calling all men to the mountain so I can pour into you. And then when I pour into you, you go back to the family so that you can sustain them. And so, we tell them in one of the things that we have a statement of dedication. And the one things we talk about is we are created to be protectors. We are created to be providers. That's what you're called to do. That's your calling. Like, it's nothing else. It's not about you. It's about you serving others. And so we try to get our young men to understand, man, like, if you understand, more will come to you if you serve. And so that's why it's important to me. And my passion comes off of this, because I understand the calling that God has on every young man in this world. And that's the problem that we're seeing in our society, man. Guys are forgetting their calling. And so that's why we have a high rate of young men and young women growing up without their biological father in the home. How is it that over 70% of our young people are growing up without their biological father in the home? You feel what I'm saying? Like, that it's not an earth thing, but it's just a high concern on me. And so when I talk to my young, now I'm tapping into what I do. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
oh, yeah.
And so going back to why we talk about the summit and the things that we do, I'm trying to get these our young men and our single moms and our dads to, like, you got to understand, man, these young men got a calling on them. You can't keep coddling them. You can't keep protecting them. Like they got to fall on their face. That's the way I learned. You know what I'm saying? That's the way all of us, guys who buy into that concept, like, I'm going to step up and be a man because, man, I know how that concrete feel.
Right, right. No, that's good. That's good. You emphasize in Young Men Growing, you emphasize leadership development, financial literacy education, social emotional learning, and community engagement. Can you elaborate on why these areas are critical for a young man's success?
Yeah, leadership is part of being a man. Like, you can't run away from it. Like, whether you got kids in the family or not, if I'm in a marketplace, the one thing we start talking about is also being competitive in the marketplace. You know what I'm saying? The marketplace could be your choice of sport, corporate America, entrepreneurship, vocational work. Like, that's leadership. Like, you can't run from leadership if you're a man. Like, I love what Jason Wilson said, man. Like, he's another guy that's an advocate out of Detroit, and I follow him a lot. He talks about, man, we are seeing men who are supposed to be lying, who are grazing in the grass instead of holding their head up high, saying, "Choose me. I want to go. I want to be that leader." And the other component of the social emotional is like me being in education and being an intervention. The one thing I say is, like, if I'm not settled in my body, and if I don't understand who I am, it's impossible for me to perform the best outside of me. The one thing I learned, Tim, is like, and God has shown me this, is like, I want to be present, whether in good times or bad times, because when I'm present, I'm more valuable to everyone around me. And so whether I'm having fun or I'm doing something that's hard, I want to be present. I want to be there. And so when we talking about that social emotional, we look at so many young brothers, more young brothers, I think it's 6 out of 10, almost 7 out of 10 are committing suicide now. You know what I'm saying? That was unheard of. It's unheard of because the lack of male leadership to remind them, like, man, I tell my young man this, is it fair? No, but it's what's required of you. Like, that's the difference of leadership. It's not fair sometimes that I got to sacrifice something that I want to do, but it's required of me. You know what I'm saying? It's required of me. Like, every time I don't want to, like, sometimes I just want to go off and do my own thing, but I got my son next to me. It's what's required of me. Every time, like, me and my wife get into it, in my mind, I want to escape, but it's like, no, but what's required of me? Every time I talk to somebody and they deny and saying, hey, there's no such thing as God or this, I gotta, like, learn how to stick in that and say, let me talk through this, let me figure this out. It's what's required of me. And so it's just what I understand, like, as men, that's what's required of us, is to step up and be there for the people around us. And so the leadership, the social emotional, the community engagement, like I said, we're called to serve, right? And then the last part is financial literacy. I tell my guys this, Tim, it's like, do these three things and you'll be a powerful brother. Number 2, put an anchor in your spirituality. And number 3, financial literacy. Understand how money works. If you do those 3 things, you're going to listen. You're going to control your narrative in this world. You know what I'm saying? And so, in short, because I could be long-winded, you know what I'm saying? That's, you know what I mean? That's where it comes from. That's where it comes from.
One of your favorite quotes is, and I love this: maturity does not begin with age, but with the acceptance of responsibility. How do you see this principle playing out in your work with young men growing?
And that quote came to me, man, when I was at my lowest point, Tim, and I came across that. And I'm like, I read that maturity does not begin with age. And so we see a lot of brothers older. They look older, they 40, 50s, and they still act like they're 20s, man. I mean, you play sports, you know how it is. I go to the gym now, dude, 45, 50, and I'm still trying to make it to the league. I'm still trying to do this. You know what I mean? Or, dude, you got 6 baby mamas and you still talking about you can't find the right one, man. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, you know what I mean? It's just so many immature things, decisions that we're making. And so for me, when I see that, I'm trying to get our young men to understand, like, yeah, the situation at home may not be the best. Yeah, life ain't working out how it's supposed to work out for you. But understand, maturity comes with you accepting what's ever in front of you. Accept it, right? If you accept that right there, you are maturing and you're going in the route you're going to eventually supposed to go to. So it's about them understanding, like, we talk about understand, like, I look at maturity like a mirror, right? And I feel like when brothers don't accept maturity, they're standing on sand, sinking. It's not a solid ground. But that moment in my life where I said, man, you know what? I'm not perfect. I haven't done everything right, but I'm gonna start today of trying to change my life. That's when that first step on the solid ground began. And you can start building what it is you're trying to build. But if you keep denying the responsibility that's called to you, you're not really standing on solid ground. So it begins with maturity. That's what it begins with.
It's good. As a mentor, what advice would you give to our audience about building meaningful relationships with young people and empowering them to take ownership of their lives?
First thing you got to remember that you was their age at one point in time.
Mhm.
You got to
Yes,
remember that.
sir.
You got to accept that. You know what I'm saying? And you have to understand that you can't live vicariously through them, right? You had your turn, so now it's their turn. So you have to create. You have to be patient, right? You have to. Let's go back. You have to be well yourself. So let's deal with that first. You know what I'm saying? You got to be well. So if we're talking about you want to pour into young man and you want to be there for them, make sure that you're right. Make sure that your social emotional is balanced, so that when it's your time, you'll be patient. You'll listen to them, and I say this all the time. You will give them the grace that they deserve, um, and so then when you give them that grace they deserve, then you're gonna let them know that you hear them and that you see them. And so then when they do make mistakes, you're gonna remind it, like, I'm not perfect, they not perfect. So let's walk this thing out together. And then I tell people, man, like I tell people about marriage, like, you got to get the manual. There's some books out here. You gotta educate yourself on the things that are impacting our young people, so that you can use the language that they need to hear to help them change their life or pivot their lives. So if you create that environment where you're patient, you're showing grace, you're listening, and you're using words that demonstrate to them that you hear them and you care about them, then they're going to open up their heart and they're going to give you time and they're going to give you respect to say, okay, I'm gonna listen to what you're saying now. You know what I'm saying? So that's what I would say to the audience, is those things right there.
That's a good word. Great word for mentors. You've been working in this space for decades. You've seen hundreds of young
Crazy.
men that you work with. But what are some times have changed. Naturally, we got the cell phone and all the social media. What are some for this generation? What are some common themes or areas where they struggle the most? And how would you help us in addressing those challenges?
You said it right, the cell phone technology. Um, we tell young men all the time, people all the time, like, you got this device, you can make money on it. You know what I'm saying? You could do so many things. You can just go to it and get all the information. Before, we had to go to the library, we had to come across somebody. But the key thing to this is, Tim, you got to be in the right headspace. You got to be mentally mature to deal with it, right? So you got to get them to understand, and the parents to understand, just because they had a cell phone on them, if they're not mentally mature, it's going to kick their butts. And so the one thing we try to do is try to get them to buy into the fact that you got to separate yourself and create friction between you and the cell phone, right? That's one of the things. The other thing is we try to get them to understand, like, reading is key, man. Like, we try to get these guys to, like, you gotta discipline yourself to read a book. You know what I'm saying? You know the saying, if you want to keep something from a black young man, put it in a book.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Put it in a book. And so those are the things that that I've learned, and the same things you deal with. It's nothing different than what you're dealing with. It's just, I think it's just understanding the language and trying to understand them. I think the the content and the wisdom is still going to be passed down from generation, but it's just the packaging of how you deliver it to them. You know what I'm saying? The
Yeah.
same things I'm saying now, you've probably said umpteen times, right? You know what I'm saying? But it's just how we deliver it to the young people. And so them cell phones is a monster. And so that's one of the biggest things. And also, the one thing I've learned also, Tim, is that they don't like to be sitting, they don't like quietness. They don't like that stillness and that quietness, because the cell phone and technology is always readily available. So we really try to work with our young men in that social emotional space, is to sit down and be still and listen to their bodies. One of the things about mental health is like you got to learn how to sit down and hear yourself and hear what your body and mind is saying. And that's a very important space. And so that's the one thing that we really try to harp on with our young men is like, you got to learn how to sit still.
It's good. Yeah, one thing that I've realized in this that I heard it said this way: real change happens when the people who need it lead it. Real change happens when the people who need it lead it. When you think about the change in this country, it's got to be led by young people. They have to lead it. You and I trying to figure out the phones and what all that. I don't know. I ain't really that interested, but when you have some young people who are sharing their experience right now, think about you, an athlete. We're looking up to that guy who's about 2 years older than us. We can't wait to be like him. One
Right,
day.
right,
So we're
right.
watching everything he does, and that's what these young people. And that's what you're building, a generation of young people that are those positive peers, so to speak, those near peers who are leading them in that direction. As we come around the corner, this is a legacy podcast. Uh, as you look back over your life and the things you've accomplished thus far, what legacy is Gary Hicks Sr. building? What is your legacy? What are you building?
See, it's simple, man. God with all my heart, mind, body, and soul. And that I'm called to love my son, wife, and my daughter. And that's my legacy. It's nothing else, no more, none less. To leave a picture of not a perfect man, but a man who will cry when you ask him the right question, a man who will get on his knees and ask God, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I don't know. But I know I love you and I love my family. And my legacy is that I care for people. I care. I simply care. I care to see a young man smiling. I care to see a woman who when they have a good man, they smile, they carry themselves different. I care when I see my son walking in peace and grace and walking with confidence in the room because he see his dad do it. I care about my daughter, sacrificing certain things so that she can find a man who's going to resemble her dad. And one of the proudest moments for me is that I never have brought too much disappointment to my mother's footstep.
That's
Say
big.
that. She would never say that. When she talks about her son, her baby, she lights up. That's my legacy.
That's
And then
powerful.
my father know that I tell him, I love you, Pops. I wouldn't be the man I am without you. That's it.
Wow, that's powerful. That's a drop the mic moment there. No, that's good stuff. That's great stuff. One more time, can you tell the audience how they can get involved in Young Men Growing and how they can contact you? Would you mind sharing that for the audience?
Absolutely. So you can just simply go to youngmangrowing.org. There you click on the link and you can see our story. We try really hard to make sure our website tells a story. Also, when you click on it, you will see the summit pop up. The summit is Saturday, April the 19th. Doors open up at 9:30 registration. Free continental breakfast. We will provide lunch. We have dynamic speakers, giveaways, and we will have breakout sessions talking about everything that we're talking about here. And it will be at Cuyahoga Community College, at the Eastern Campus and Harvard area, Harvard Park area.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us at youngmangrowing@gmail.
One thing that I saw in there that was really intriguing to me is the parent sessions. Not
Oh,
only do you
yeah,
have
yeah, yeah, yeah,
the
yeah, yeah, yeah.
parent session, as we wrap this up, what's the goal of those parent sessions? A lot of times we pour into the young man, and we got a lot of mothers, just being honest. What's the goal of those parent sessions?
Yeah, man. Me being in education, man. Like you can have the perfect classroom. You can have really good, solid classroom management. You can have your young people engaged and they're learning and growing. But the buck stop when they go home, and if they don't have that same type of atmosphere at home, if they're not seeing a mom or dad or grandmama reading, they don't see that they're having quiet time. They don't see, spiritual growth being modeled. They don't hear conversation of real world issues going on and talking it out. They don't see the patience and grace that they need to carry themselves with, even the way they dress, the way they walk, and how they introduce themselves. If they don't see those things, it's like they're only getting half the picture. And typically, it's gonna be hard for them to make that decision. And so, going back to our parents, we really try to buy into our parents and get them to, like, if I get my parents to buy in, the young man ain't got no choice.
But Dr. Hicks, I want to thank you for being on the show and appreciate your passion, your true passion for young men. I can feel it through the screen. I'm sure everybody who's listening can feel and understand your passion. And now they know your why. All of us have to have a why. And now
Yes,
they know
sir.
why you do what you do. So I want to thank you for standing the gap for so many young men and just empowering those young men and families and being that model for them. This is Coach Tim Brown. I want to thank our audience for listening to Be a Baller podcast. Please be sure to subscribe and share this episode with others. And as always, continue to build a lifelong legacy. Be a baller. Thanks, Gary, for joining us. Appreciate you.
Okay, well.
If you've enjoyed this episode, please share it with family and friends. The Be a Baller podcast is available on all major podcast platforms. This podcast was created by Coach Tim Brown and recorded and edited by the video production class of Worthington Christian High School. Be sure to come back next week as we continue to discuss on how to build a lifelong legacy. Until then, don't forget to be a baller.